So for those of you who don't know who Moloch is or what the name Moloch's coming from, it's basically Moloch is a baby-eating demon. But in our naming, we took it from Scott Alexander's essay Meditations on Moloch. If you haven't read this, you definitely should. And in the essay, Moloch problem is a category of problems where individual interests and incentives are misaligned with group interest. And we see that a lot in public infrastructure blockchain development. So Moloch DAO, Moloch DAO is basically an attempt and experiment for community funding, initially started to facilitate and accelerate ETH 2.0 development. So Moloch DAO is really, really simple. It only has 400 lines of code. And the design decision is really like, we think it's the most important thing of a DAO is that we make it really secure so people feel comfortable putting funds into it. Like we don't want a lot of on-chain features. We don't want a lot of on-chain kind of like complexities. So it's really simple. So in 400 code, you can join as a member by an existing Moloch member. And you can pledge fund to what we call the guild bank. That's where the treasury is held. You can submit membership and grant proposals. You can vote on things. And if you rage quit Moloch, you can basically take out your shares and cash out your portion of the shares in the treasury. So how does it work exactly? So members, you put in ETH to Moloch's guild bank, and you get some voting shares in return. And it's really simple because you can do only two things as a member. You can either vote on issuance of new shares. Like for example, if someone else wants to join as a member, what you're voting on essentially is to give that person additional shares. Or if someone else wants to get a grant, what you're also doing is giving that person more shares in exchange for the work they promise they will do. And then the second thing you can do is rage quit. What we call rage quit is essentially giving out your shares and then cashing out from the treasury. So to get funded as a grantee is also using those simple share structure. So the only thing really you really can do is to play with the shares as a DAO member or as a grantee. So this blurs the line between equity and labor. So you can submit a proposal, it enters a voting period, and then during this voting period, members vote, and after a vote has passed or failed, there's a seven-day grace period. And if you don't agree with the outcome of a vote, or if you really disagree with the direction Moloch DAO is going, this is the time you can withdraw your shares and cash out. And sometimes proposal passes, sometimes it doesn't pass. So just kind of like a review of our achievements so far in terms of the growth of membership and growth of treasury. So it launched on a very romantic date at East Denver this year. At the time, there were 22 founding members, each contributed about 100 ETH. And then like later on, a month or two later, Vitalik and Joe joined, each with 1,000 ETH. They're very YOLO of them. But although they're the biggest like holder, and of voting shares, their shares are actually distributed to 10 employee affiliates of Consensus and Ethereum Foundation. So they don't really control Moloch. Even they have the biggest like voting shares. It's pretty distributed. And then a few months ago, I think Jess Zen from Funfair joined with 250 ETH. So total donation Moloch received so far is 7,840 ETH. I think that at the highest value, it's about 1.8 million. And total members so far, including grantees, including members, are 71. So Moloch DAO was initially funded to accelerate the ETH2 development. So let's look at the distribution of the funding we actually gave out. So about like 66% were spent on ETH2 funding. Some are spent on some other Ethereum development work that's not really specifically to ETH2. And also Moloch itself spent about 10% in maintenance, coordination work itself, and building out the sites. So yeah, we funded in total about 120K in grants. Some interesting grants highlight, we funded Matt Sleeper's work to continuously provide report and engineering guidance to the ETH 2.0 team and various clients teams. We also funded UI work for Hopper, Mixer by Argent. I mean, remember the times where Vitalik's really like, why there's no Mixer? So like Moloch were able to source a team to build out this Mixer. 30K to a JavaScript implementation of ETH 2.0 client. And the most controversial grant is about 4,000K to fund 4,000 to fund Young DAO. So the reason this is controversial is because a lot of people think, oh, this is too political. This is really a reason to get Peter involved. I didn't. Yeah, so like people think this is like not really related to Moloch's like main goal and mission when we start out, so it's very controversial. Almost one member almost rage quit because of this past. And there's also an interesting thing here because like Moloch has about 70 members, I think, and definitely there's you can see some certain influential people can still vote because it's a very tight kind of collective of people. So I remember Amin just told me like, you vote yes on this. And I read the proposal, I feel pretty indifferent about this, so I voted yes. And I think me and probably a few other members just swing the vote because essentially this one wasn't passing initially. So how do Moloch members coordinate offline? We use Discord pool and Lumio for sentiment. We use like Discord mostly for private discussions. Initially we were on Telegram, but then we switched to Discord because on Telegram it's really hard to have different channels to separate your discussion into different topics. We had one offline meetup around New York Blockchain Week, but we're going to have another one in Berlin just in a few days. We have regular monthly calls. And yesterday we launched a public discourse and public wiki open to the community. Everything else is really private to Moloch members, but the Discord group is public to the community. So here you can see this is basically a wiki of everything we have done. And about like all the basic knowledges of like how to join as a member, how to contribute without voting, a bunch of other things. And eventually we're going to open this up as a discussion forum for the community, kind of like ETH research. So yeah, like 6 months ago when Moloch was first launched, we had a lot of hypotheses of how things would work out. So, am I running okay on time? 2 more minutes?
But then no questions.
Okay. So we think that the ability to allow members to rage quit would encourage donation. I think that's true. A lot of people who didn't feel comfortable contributing at first, knowing that they can just withdraw their shares and cash out, were like eventually convinced. And we think that people will fork Moloch and tweak Moloch to launch their own DAOs, and that's definitely true. We have Metacartel and a fork of Metacartel and Young DAO and probably many more to come. So we also think like with the non-participation in voting activities is actually an explicit delegation by design. There's actually some interesting work by Burek Erican, and he presented here yesterday, and check that out, on voting and participation. And it's actually worked out because we see like a lot of times people don't vote on issues is because they agree with the outcome. But when they don't agree, when something's really controversial, voting turnout is really the highest. So the highest proposal actually has the highest voting turnout. And we think also members probably would have enough skin in the game to contribute to off-chain coordination work. That turned out to be not true. We realized that people all have their full-time jobs, and then like no one actually have the capacity to put in a lot of work besides like maybe 1 or 2 people. So I think we're probably going to bring on someone or have some initial member doing the full-time coordination work and just pay that person through the Moloch treasury as a grant. So the latest feature, we integrated with 3box for identity, and we also launched a new feature called the grant pool, where you can contribute money into Moloch, but without the voting shares. And this is also completely open to public. So I can just give you a quick demo here. Wait. Yeah, so basically you can just donate funds here. Oh, I have to probably approve, sorry. Yeah, so once you approve the contract to deduct ETH from your account, then you should be able to donate. I don't know why this is erroring out, sorry. Yeah, so that's basically the latest updates for Moloch.